I constantly complain about car manufacturers that copy Tesla, and people think that that means that I hate Teslas. But in fact, we have the brand new Model 3 Highland, and it is a fantastic car. It's annoying as heck. I'm going to complain for this whole video, but it is a fantastic car. Now, Tesla is able to get away with all of their absolute nonsense by doing things like just very simply having a frunk. This is the sort of thing that I was expecting for every single electric car to have when Tesla first unveiled it, and since then, many do not. It is very sad because this is an excellent amount of space where you can put things like your tow hook, you can put a whole bag back here, and also they've relocated the windshield washer fluid so you don't have to pour it into your frunk when you do that. Overall, I think this new redesign does look really good. It is obviously a Tesla, but it's a bit more aggressive and it has less of that sort of bubbly look that the old one had. Although that said, there's so many of these around Vancouver that it's just gonna look like your average pile-on anyway in a couple months. Moving around to the side, we have our power mirrors right here, very nice. And we also have these extra expensive rims that are also worse for your range. That said, they do look kind of cool and they're wrapped in 235s that are EV rated and nice and quiet. That is a theme with this car. Like this window right here, you can see the double pane glass that makes it real nice and quiet on the inside while you're driving around. One thing that isn't new, but is still very strange, is the just complete lack of keys that you get with this thing. So you get this little card right here, which you have to do that in order to lock or unlock your car. And if you want to do anything else, you need the app. Now the app is pretty cool and it does work well, but this is the only car that I've ever experienced where the app is mandatory. And I'm just using it for things that my keys do. I would much rather just have keys, please. Moving to the rear of the car, we have these nice redesigned taillights and a whole bunch of mud. I'm very sorry. We washed this before we went out. It's been raining, it's muddy, it's Vancouver. I'm very sorry, and I'm also very sorry that you can't open this trunk by just standing here. Apparently that came in the last update, but this car didn't get the memo, apparently. That said though, power trunk and just loads of room in here. We've got the frunk up front, and then also in here, we have just a whole bunch of room. I have no clue how Tesla did this because every single other manufacturer seems to be just losing cargo space in their EVs when Tesla somehow managed to just make it more spacious and generally practical than every other car on the market. Also in the back, we have our charging cable that includes our nice little dongle. So if you want a slow charger, we've got that here. And of course, Tesla uses NACS right here, which has completely won the battle in North America. Everyone else is moving towards it, and if you get one of these, you already have it. Great. While we're here on this rear-wheel drive model, you're able to get up to 170 kilowatts of charging, and that goes into a 57.5 kilowatt hour battery, which is good for about 438 kilometers of range, which is frankly incredible. Compared to something like the Kia Niro EV, it just completely kills it. You have more power, smaller battery, and longer range because Tesla is just the leader in the space. It's kind of just a fact. Hopping into the back seat, we've actually got a pretty decent amount of room back here. I've got enough space for my knees. My legs are a little bit high up. We do have that skateboard floor, but I have enough headroom. So overall, it's decent enough for a short trip. And if you have a longer trip, there's an even better thing back here, which is this 8-inch display. Now it allows us to do lots of cool things like control the heated seats, the climate from down here, even move the passenger seat forward or back. But the real key feature of this is gaming. What other car can do that? Stardew Valley in a car. Also back here we have 2 USB Type-Cs for charging and 2 cup holders for your drinks. Hopping into the driver's seat, it is rather comfortable, but not the best that I've ever experienced for this kind of a price point. That said though, compared to the last Model 3, it is a night and day difference in here. Just how good everything feels when you're driving around. The insulation in here is fantastic, the suspension's way better, and it just leads to a much better driving experience where instead of going around kind of like, it's more like, because it's still a little bit stiff. Now the seats aren't the best that I've ever experienced in a car of this price point, and I do kind of question the white interior that Maria's gone for. Oh yeah, this is Maria's car, she did the thumbnail for this. These are gonna be hard seats to keep clean, but they are ventilated now as well as heated. Very nice. And overall, it's pretty good. One thing that's kind of strange is that the footwell dips down sort of right where the pedals are to give you a little bit more room height-wise. But then if you move your feet back a tiny bit, your legs are super high up. It's kind of strange. Also, back to how Tesla has just the best packaging in the game. We've got loads of storage space right in here. We've got nice little covers for our cup holders, but if you want that, we have another great big spot right there. And up at the front, we have wireless charging for the phone, which is a little bit inefficient for sure. It's excellent at making your phone hot, but it does at least charge it while it does that, unlike some other cars. Now, of course, this being a Tesla, we need to talk about screen. You don't get multiple screens, you don't get gauges, you don't get a HUD. You just get one screen that does literally everything, and if it stops working, then, well, you can do drive select up here and your emergencies, but that's about it. So you better be hoping that your Model 3 doesn't pretend to be a Cybertruck for a little bit and just stop working up here. Anyway, when it does work, this is overall excellent. The navigation is shockingly good for something that's included in a car. It isn't quite at the level of something like a Google Maps, but it is really, really close. And in here you can do loads of fun stuff. Like we can go in here, we can play Stardew Valley like we were seeing before, and a bunch of other games. We have really nice integration with all of your music apps, which is pretty good, and you can actually download directly to the car here. I have seen some where you can't, and you're just kind of screwed if you don't have any service. We do also see just incredible responsiveness of all of the systems in here, and for the most part, everything here just works shockingly well. One thing that I do wish is that a bit more of the climate controls were just set down here all the time. Like I really like it when the seat heaters are just permanently down here instead of having to go to a second menu. But at the same time, it all is super fast. It all works really quite well. It's the sort of thing where you can kind of get away with having everything on a street if it's all super snappy and super organized. And those last two bits are where the other companies seem to really fail when they try to just copy this stupid climate menu from Tesla. Do you know what isn't stupid though? This segue to our sponsor, Rocket Money. Thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. They securely track your monthly spending and cancel unwanted or forgotten subscriptions, which means more money for a new laptop. So go to rocketmoney.com/shortcircuit to start saving alongside 5 million users today. All right, now it's time to go for a drive, which means that I have to put it in gear by swiping the touchscreen. It's not a super difficult system, but it's also the worst system that I've ever used. I really don't like when I'm, say, need to go forward and back and forward and back if you're like parallel parking or something like that. It's just really awkward swiping it like this when you're maybe like, you're turning the wheel, you're moving like that, you want to go back. It's not difficult, it's just worse than every other gear selector I've ever used. Speaking of worse than every other one that I've ever used, the turn signal. I want to turn left. My steering wheel currently is upside down and kind of sideways. Which way is left? That one. I got it. Oh my god, that is so f***ing stupid. It's the point in the video. You know it had to come. There's no f***ing stock for your turn signals. It is actually the stupidest thing I have ever seen in a car, and the person that decided that should be fired. The people under them should also be fired for not telling them that it's the worst idea ever. And the people above them, if this wasn't decided by Elon himself, should also be fired because it is the stupidest thing I have ever seen in a car. It is just so bad. I constantly am going like a parking lot. You're turning out, you turn up to the stop sign, and your steering wheel is just not in the correct position. Maybe if they had like 3 dots on left, 1 on right, you'd be able to kind of get a feel for it and be like, okay, it's over here, 3 dots, boom, we're good. Nope. You just have to look at the direction, which if you're not going straight, is not the correct direction that it's going to be pointing. Also, say that you want to do a right turn, say. You need to maybe go into that lane and then make the turn, but it's going to turn off your signal when you turn into that lane, and then you're doing your right-hand turn without a signal on. Or earlier today, I was making a left-hand turn, hit the thing, and then I started to turn but realized someone was coming, and instinctively had my hand out to stop the stalk from coming back up. Nope, turn signal just turned off, and then I made a left-hand turn without my signal on. Great job, Tesla. This is an excellent system. It's the worst f***ing thing you've ever done, and that's really saying something. Anyway, the rest of it is not all that bad. I was also planning on complaining about the lack of a stalk for your wipers because, you know, you get splashed by a truck and nah, there's just a button right here. It's actually perfectly fine to just have your windshield wipers be a single button. You hold it long press for your windshield washer fluid, but what I am going to complain about there is that this is the worst auto wiper system that I've ever experienced, and that combined with not having a stalk means that I'm pressing this single wipe button a whole bunch. It's been intermittently raining for the last couple of days while I've been driving this, and it's just absolutely infuriating because half the time the windshield wipers won't even go and I'll just have to manually do it, and the other half of the time it'll just start absolutely ripping when there's no rain on there at all. I don't understand what it's doing, and they don't have different settings for the auto wipers in the menu. So every single other car that I've used that has auto wipers, you can be like, I want auto wipers level 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, and you can kind of make it work in intermittent conditions that way. This right here, you have one option. Or if you want to manually do it, you have to select it on the stupid touchscreen, and it's just, ugh. I have not had to think about my windshield wipers in a modern car for years. This is the most that I have had to think about it, and this is the one that should be the most automated because they got rid of stupid stock. Ugh. Anyway, on to good things. We are on a really, really rough and generally awful road right now, and you might notice it's not loud at all. It's maybe less loud than like the EQS that we drove a little while ago. It is genuinely so quiet and comfortable in here. I cannot believe it is a Tesla. Like, we are about to hit a bunch of bumps and no rattles, no creaks. You're not getting that signature Tesla that we definitely would have got in the last Model 3 on a road like this. And just like, fantastic job to everyone that was involved with sound deadening this, tuning the suspension. It is a true generational leap over the last one, and I seriously commend all of the engineers involved with it. It takes what felt like kind of a dinky toy of a car before and makes it like a proper, you want to use it every single day, and it is so comfortable and so enjoyable to be in here. It totally changes the character of the car. But that said, if you don't want to just comfortably cruise like I have been the entire time, it is also a little bit of a rocket. So this right here is the rear-wheel drive. It is the slowest one of the bunch, but it still has 270 horsepower, 310 foot-pounds of torque, and it can do a 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds, which is not the fastest ever, but it still is pretty darn good. Now, one thing that I have noticed is if you have pretty much any steering lock and hit the gas, it's going to really throttle it back. It really doesn't want you to spin those back wheels and get any sort of oversteer on the go. I'm a bit fun policey, but that said, in a straight line, this thing is incredibly competent and just so easy. It really allows you to be the new BMW drivers of 2024. In the past, they'd be the ones that aren't signaling and cutting you off and being dickheads. Now it's the Tesla drivers, because for one, you just can't signal. Even if you try, half the time you just don't. And also, it's so easy and quiet to go fast in this that you can, without even really realizing it, just be a complete dickhead in traffic. It's really quite nice. Well, for me, not for anyone else. Speaking of being a dickhead, the lights in this are some of the worst that I have ever experienced as someone else on the road. You can immediately tell it's a Tesla at night because you are immediately blinded. This is a huge problem across the entire industry, but Tesla has these really bright LED lights, And everyone else seemed to think like, oh, maybe aiming those down and using the cameras to make sure that we don't blind everyone is a good idea. And Tesla was just like, what about we just put really bright lights in here and blind everyone else? I said that the suspension is a lot softer in the straight line. Does that make it bad in the corners? No, not at all. This thing is shockingly competent, even though you can't really tell what's going on. It kind of just sorts everything out for you, so if you're looking for the most engaging driving experience, you're not going to get it here, but if you just want to feel like you're playing a video game, it is great. And wow, the speed it can hold through a corner is just shocking, especially given that this thing has the better part of 3,900 pounds of mass to move around. What? I was not departing the road. Speaking of which, we should probably address
full self-driving.
It is not in this car. You are able to get it as a monthly subscription now for $99, down from $200 in the past. And the owner of this simply said, I tried it, and it nearly killed me twice, so I'm never using it again. Great. That said, the adaptive cruise in this is quite fantastic. It doesn't quite match up to the Koreans. Hyundai and Kia have done an excellent job recently with their tuning, but this is still really good. It's excellent until you get down to around like 10 kilometers an hour or so, and then sometimes it'll just hit the brakes super hard for not any real reason that I can figure out. But that said, it still does its job really well for the most part on the highways and stuff like that. And also a pretty good time, the sound system. Play Crab Rave on Tidal. Now, this being the rear wheel drive, we only get the 9-speaker sound system, but it is still really quite good. So we have 4 up in the front, 4 in the back, and a sub in the rear, and it measures really quite well, down to about 40 hertz where it just falls off of a cliff, but it still is more than good enough to jam. As well as good frequency response, we also have very solid staging. We don't have perfectly centered center channel vocals, but it's just off to the side, and I think it's pretty good from passenger seat to driver's seat. So overall, I am quite impressed. This thing starts at around $41,000 in the US, and with savings, it's just around $44,000 Canadian, which is really quite good for what you're getting. The insulation in here, again, is just incredible. We've got a full panoramic roof all the way back, and somehow they've made it just silent in this cabin. The suspension is leagues ahead of the last gen, and Tesla remains just the best electric powertrain on the market. They've continued to just unapologetically make electric cars. They haven't done anything stupid like try and make your electric car feel like it's a automatic transmission slush box for some reason. It's just nice direct throttle, everything simple. If you want something that's just super easy for getting to and from work every day, you really can't do much better than this. So overall, Maria, I think you did an excellent job purchasing this car and an excellent job doing the thumbnail for this video. And you, the viewer, you also did an excellent job by watching till the end. Hit like, get subscribed, and just have a great old day. I'll see you later.